This is Dustin Downs with ROPES1.com. We're here today. We have a new premiere show, Inside the Ropes. I'm here today with Jay Downs.
Hello, this is Jay. I'd like to introduce, this, like you said, this is something new that we're trying out, and I want to introduce Steve Chapman. We have DJ Ellis across in the Pete Rose jersey, and with our special guest, Bobby Blaze Smedley. Bob, you can go ahead and tell us about your bio.
Yeah, well, thanks for a nice introduction there. My name is Bobby Blaze. You know, I started off in wrestling, I was a big fan when I was a kid. I loved professional wrestling, always did, always went to the shows in the Ashland National Guard Armory. I went to shows in Huntington and Lexington, wherever I'd go to a show at, I'd catch a ride, I'd go. Started off setting up the ring for the old ICW. Just loved wrestling. Used to sneak into the Armory. I haven't paid for a wrestling ticket since I was 12 years old. And I hope I never pay for another one. That's not to say I won't be at shows, because I still love going to shows. I hope I get comped in. I always like that. Nothing better than free, right? But anyway, I started wrestling. I met a guy named Rick Newsom and started going to some shows, but it's one of these little local independent things that you just travel throughout the state. I was down in Hayside, Virginia on September 11th, 1988. I had my debut and I had a pretty decent match, but no one really smarted me up. And I had about 10 or 15 matches. I remember being in Pikeville, Kentucky, and they put me in the main event. I'd worked earlier tonight and someone didn't show up, and they put me in the main event. And Buddy Landell was in the ring, and that was my partner, and had handsome Jimmy Valiant and fresh off the NWA TV with Lasertron. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the shows, and I'm right on the ring apron. And again, no one's really smarting me up. So I'm like, wait a minute, man. These guys, this is professional here. What I've been doing is just beating the hell out of someone and getting the hell beat out of me. So I had already sent off a bunch of information about my lifting and my athletic career in the past, and I actually went to the Monster Factory in New Jersey with Larry Sharp, Bam Bam Bigelow, some of those guys, and I rode up there and I had a little tryout, and I was like, it's like, you know, hey, you're a good little athlete, you do good, but it just wasn't the right fit or something uncomfortable. But in the meantime, the Malenko camp, and I'm forever thankful for a gentleman named Marvin Joel out of Minnesota wrote me back and said, hey, you need to meet Larry Malenko and his sons Joe and Dean. They're some of the best craftsmen in the business. So I went to pack my bags, went down to Tampa, Florida, and started training for Malenko's. And I went there 4 days a week and trained and done all kinds of conditioning, learned how to actually wrestle. And then from there, you know, it just, back when the business was changing, actually, there was still some territories to go to. Whereas Carl Gott used to say, I throw out an old dame here, there used to be 38 territories in the United States, and I know because I got fired from every one of them. But there wasn't a whole lot of different territories, but the Florida Championship was still going, and so I did some spot shows with them, and so over about an 18-month period, just get some shows here and there, and then I had a chance to go to Canada. I signed a contract, and July 5th, 1991, I went full-time, and I stayed full-time, fortunately, up until right before 9/11. So I went from September 11th of '88, went full-time July 5th of 1991, and wrestled for pretty much 10 years straight, up until August of 2001. I finished up with I've been to Japan 7 times, Australia, South Africa, and England, and Mexico, and all over Canada. So I wrestled on 5 continents, and wrestled some of the biggest companies in the world. When I was in Japan, I wrestled with Michinoku, Pro Wrestling, Northeast Pro Wrestling at the time was the 3rd biggest in Japan. I wrestled with Smoky Mountain, which was a huge independent organization ran by Jim Cornette. I did work for WWF back in the day. You know, don't like the term jobber per se, but they had enhancement talent, had jobbers. Everyone has to pay their dues, and I take no shame in that because the money was good, and everyone has a job, whether you're a plumber, whether you're a teacher, whatever you do, you have a job to do, and I knew what my job was on those nights. And then eventually I got with WCW, and that was a good run. I had about a 3-year run there. And but the last thing basically, as you get a little bit older, every time you're past 35 in wrestling, you're on borrowed time unless you're Ric Flair or God. I don't know. Anyway, I went to exactly. There you go. But I went to Japan for 6 weeks, and I came home for a week, and then I went to England for another 5 weeks. And I was getting close to 40, and man, I'm just telling you, I came home and just like someone tied me to a tree and just beat me with a stick, and I was just beat. So at that point, for about the next 3 to 4 years, I just did weekend shows, and then I did summer, a lot of county fairs and things like that. Because it just beat you down too much, you know. But so I had a good run. I had a good 15 years, but 10 of it was full time, and that's kind of me, you know.
I know at one time you were ranked high for PWI's individual rank.
Right.
I think you were 95 in.
I was up there. I think I actually might have been 109, but I'll take the 95.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, when I beat Lawler, I jumped from like 261 up to like 109. So, you know, that's pretty good.
What was it like at Smoky Mountain during that time with Lawler when you beat Lawler for the title?
You know, it was really good. I'd already had a good 2.5 year run there, and Cornette was really good to me. All the boys was good to me. Of all the places I've been, the morale locker in the Smoky Mountain, you had just a good combination of veterans. You had like the Rock and Roll Express and Tracy Smothers and some of those guys, and myself as the baby faces. So don't always bring people in for this. And they had a couple, you know, Dirty White Boy, and of course the Heavenly Bodies started off as the Midnight Express and went to Heavenly Bodies. Yeah. He kept a good stable of heels. And he had like Dutch Mantell, stud stable with Jimmy Golden. Very talented guys, and they he had a good product, and the town we went to, people loved us, and it was basically one of the last of the territories, the wrestling the way you remember, the rest of the way it should be, you know. Yeah. And so Smoky Mountain was a great run, and then I had taken some time off. I was working quite a bit. I actually was doing some behind-the-scenes work for Cornette, booking some towns and things. So I stayed in the scene, but I didn't go on TV. I'd done spot shows and stuff. And I was coming home from Huntington doing a radio show one day, and I get a phone call. I'm actually heading to Tennessee, and it's Cornette, and he's like, "Bobby, I got this great idea for you. What do you think?" And I was like, well, you know, there's not much to think about, Jim. when do you need me there? You know, when are you talking? He said, "Well, I've got some ideas, but I kicked around." But he said, "Here's where we're going with this." And so they set up the TV, and set up the angle, and this match. So I've been off TV about 3 months, and basically Bud Armstrong, who was a commissioner at the time, you know, they had the whole angle going on. He tells you know, Landell, basically, you don't get a match. I'm going to the back, and the first wrestler I find, he's coming out here and he's wrestling Lawler, and then you'll wrestle a winner back, and then of course I upset Lawler. Right. And that was a huge pop. You know, we had about 6,000 people in Knoxville City Coliseum. I'd already wrestled earlier and went over real strong, so I came back that night and had a good opening match, and changed the music and everything, and changed my gimmick, my gear. And so I come in back, you know, my boots unlaced, and the show goes on, and then Armstrong comes through and grabs me, and we go out to the ring, and of course they're like, "Oh, who is, you know, Lawler's, who is this?" He's
what Armstrong was that, by the way?
Bull Armstrong was the commissioner. And so he come back here, and I went out there, and, you know, I said, Landell steps up on the ring, and I push Lawler off, double headbutt, roll Lawler up, 1, 2, 3. Landell jumps in. Of course, I'm already beat a little bit. Then I end up beating, you know, Landell. So you get 3 victories in one day. Hey, and a little trivia fact here. I don't know if people listen to the old WLW 700 radio station in Cincinnati. They'd done a trivia show, and actually that week that I beat Lawler, that's, you know, Jerry Lawler's a big star for WWE now. And, you know, self-made man, great guy, Godspeed on his health. Thing is, he'd gotten beat by Bill Dundee for the, I guess the USWA or the old title there on like a Monday. Then he got beat by on a Sunday, I'm sorry, and got beat by Dundee on a Monday. And so he got beat by 2 people, one in East Tennessee by me, and out West Tennessee by Dundee, and basically he was going to WWF, so, you know, at the time, WWE now. But anyway, so, you know, it's an old trivia question. Lawler, you know, gave up his Tennessee's title, so he's no longer king of Tennessee. Of course, he still is. But, but anyway, so yeah, it was a good run, you know, it was fun, and those guys were good to me, and, you know, we made the most of it.
Right.
So.
Where was you off from? I'm sorry to interrupt you, DJ. Where would you finish off after there? Did you go to WCW?
No, actually, when Smoky Mountain shut down, it shut down about 3 years later, or during that 3-year process, I should say. I had been contacted by WWF at the time. Cornette had called me and said, "Hey, we got some spots for you," but they just weren't right because I was already talking to Atlanta, WCW. And I really wasn't, you know, I was just looking to work. So I was doing a lot of independence, and while I was fresh off TV, you know, I stayed busy in the Carolinas, Virginia, Kentucky, and West Virginia. So I really wasn't like, I was looking for a job when I found that one, per se, you know. So this one is no saying in wrestling, you know, hey, I was looking for a job when I found this one.
That's right.
And at that time, you could really finish up somewhere and start somewhere else. There was always something going on. So I never stayed home too long, you know, because the money doesn't last forever.
No.
And in the meantime, what I did is I was doing a lot of independence, and went to Japan. And did my first tour there. Actually done 2 tours pretty much back to back, with about a month in between them. And while I was over in Japan, WCW had contacted me again. And when, as soon as Smoky Mountain shut down, Cornette called me about going to WWF. But I was already talking to Kevin Sullivan and Paul Warendorf about coming into WCW. And at that time, they weren't offering contracts because they had some big guys on contracts. But we were actually, Smoky Mountain, we was doing shows that was drawn anywhere between, our worst night was a night we drew 1,200 people. And the only reason we drew 1,200 people is because a little guy by the name of Michael Jordan was playing baseball. And
That's right, the Bears.
The Bears would come to town to play the Knoxville Smokies. And so everyone was going to baseball to see Michael Jordan. So our crowd went down. So if you can not sell out because Michael Jordan's in town, hey, that's a compliment. But we was drawing about 6,000. And the first time WCW ran a Nitro, I went down. They mailed out 10,000 tickets in the envelopes to people that had cable.
Yeah.
To promote this free show, basically come down, you know. And they, before they did that, they drew out 473 people. So they wasn't even drawing in Knoxville. So they wasn't offering contracts. But anyway, by the time I got back to Japan, right when Nitro started hitting, and of course you had Raw, it started the Monday Night Wars per se. They were just buying up contracts and picking people up.
I'm sure.
When Terry Taylor called me, I was like, you know, look, you know, Paul and Kevin's already talked to me. I'm not driving to Macon, Georgia for $200. You know,
that's right.
Like, don't you live in Knoxville? I was like, no, I'm back in Kentucky. I'm back in Ashland. I made ours from Atlanta. I can't come to Macon for $200 to go on your TV. You know?
That's right.
And Paul was like, well, I guess you're not the village idiot. And I go, Paul, you know, I knew Paul from Tampa. He's a living legend down there.
He is.
Yeah. So anyway, Terry was like, Bobby, you don't understand. We're flying you to Charlotte. We're paying you. We're offering you contracts now. And I was like, what time's that flight? And then after I wrestled, you know, I tried out and stuff. I had 3 dark matches that night, and I was the second one out and had a good match. And Jimmy Hart met me, and then of course Terry Taylor was going to be my agent. So he come back and he offered me a figure, and I was like, oh wow. I'm making this on Independence, and they're offering me this. Where do I sign again? You know, let me get a little bit of blood here, you know.
No doubt about it.
What was that night like? Like when you first got that contract, you know, when you're used to making, you know, chump change, you know, for gas money, and then you get, is that, you know, that relief?
Well, you know, the thing is, that's just it. At that point, I wasn't necessarily making chump change. I was making good money on Independent because I was fresh off TV. And by no means was it anything compared to what, you know, a Ted Turner check doesn't bounce, you know. So, you know, it's a no-brainer anyway. But yeah, because it's guaranteed. And then Independent, you're out there trying to book yourself. You got people saying, oh, I know this, you know, we're starting promotion, whatever. And you saw the territories dying down a little bit. So it's like, you know, so it's a big night.
You were in,
ecstatic, you know. But I went to a couple people and said, hey, this is what they're offering and this and that. And it didn't dawn on me at first, like, well, this is really good money. They said, so how many nights you working? And I was like, oh, well, I figured it up, and I was like, oh, man, they're offering like $1,000 a night. That's a no-brainer, you know. So yeah, because if you're going to sign, you know, they said, well, they'll sign guys with that. I was going to go down there thinking that anything over 50 is great, you know.
Oh yeah.
And because you know, independently you can make you know, have a $600 week pretty easy, and you know, 30 grand, and you know, so it's just like any other job. You're thinking, well, that's a comfortable, you know.
Yeah.
But and then a lot of hard work, a lot of miles, like you said. Sometimes it's just your gas money, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I added up the days, and I was, wait a minute, they're offering me, you know, X amount of days, and if you get 100 days a year, wow, you know, you're this is no brainer. So it was good. The funny thing about it was I had told some people. And if this would have been true, I've been so close so many times to making that extra step and that extra money. Jim Cornette approached me about becoming one of the heavy body with Tom Pritchard. I mean, what an honor that was. It was me and Mike Sampson and a guy named Jimmy Del Rey. Well, I knew Jimmy Laughlin from